Okay, welcome everyone. Fran, I'm going to be looking up there quite a bit too, just to kind of do both. So everybody can see me and hear me. We are at the buyer consult class. And I love teaching this class because I have a special place in my heart for buyers. And buyers is generally where a lot of new agents, especially, start and are very buyer heavy versus listing heavy. And so I think that Fran, for you, especially coming in as a new agent, to be able to learn how to work with buyers the right way from the beginning versus breaking bad habits is super helpful. So I'm going to teach you the way that I was taught to work with buyers that will really set you up for success. So everybody can see this. This is our schedule now. This is a two-part class. So we have one on the books for today, and I think the next one is set up for, let me just double check. I think it's the 21st, Wednesday, June 21st, same time, 1 o'clock. I've taught this in 3 parts before. We're going to try for 2 parts and see if we need to add a third one on. We certainly can. So this is what we're going to cover, and I want to make sure that I set the expectation. I want it to be interactive. So feel free to ask questions, folks online. Kate, welcome. Thank you for joining us. Feel free to chime in. We can hear you. I can see you. So please feel free to chime in, because these classes are made better when you share your experiences or share your questions. So the first thing we're going to start with is why. Why have a buyer consult? I think the number one thing that people can get stuck on is the mindset around them and why it's important. So we'll talk about that. Number 2 is securing a consult. So when you're talking with someone, how do you actually get them to say yes to an appointment, right? Number 3, delivering a consult. How do I actually deliver? I have the appointment. What do I say? What do I cover? How do I add value? Number 4, gaining commitment. Okay, so I just gave all this value. How do I get them to commit to me as their buyer's agent? Okay, I call it list your buyers, right? And number 5, this came up in our last class, I was asking if there were any follow-up topics or questions, where someone asked, hey, what do I do if someone signs a partnership agreement with me and they cheat on me and they write a contract with someone else, right? So I said, okay, well, let's talk about the cheaters in the system, okay? I'm gonna pause for a second and ask, is there anything else that you were really hoping to cover in this class? So I'll look to the folks in the room and the folks online. Are we missing anything that you really want to get to add to your business? Yeah, I'll take the silence as a no.
I have something.
Oh, yes.
I'm just giving others a moment. I always think it's great if you can go over the agency agreement. Because that's super important. And I'm sure that's in there.
Yep.
I just want to make sure that I highlight that.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that in the gaining commitment piece.
Perfect. Thank you.
See, agent disclosure. You got it. Thank you.
Yeah.
We're actually going to talk about fair housing as well. Okay. Some of the disclosures that I like to get signed up front, because we should be getting them signed up front. Okay. So let's dive in. If I were to ask you, and we have a really good audience here because we have a new agent, we have a existing agent, a PC coach, we've got existing agents on the call. How does a typical, if you were to profile a typical buyer's agent, how do they interact with buyers?
Enthusiastically.
Yes, agreed. But they get a call from Joe. Joe wants to see 123 Main Street. Okay. Hey, Kim, I want to see 123 Main Street. Right now, we know Kim is going to follow this process, but what is your average or typical agent going to do?
Great. When are you free? When do you want to see it?
Exactly. Great. Awesome. They're so excited they got a lead call to show a house. Right? Awesome. Okay. So they want to see it at 6 o'clock at night. You had a birthday party to go to, but you know what? Showing a house is way more important than the birthday party. Right. Because I might sell a house.
This is exciting.
So exciting. There might be a contract at the end of this, right?
You never know.
Okay. So you do your research. You spend like half hour researching the house. You're going to show up, right? And they see it. they tour it, they like it. And you ask if they, what, write an offer, right? And they say, yeah, you know what, we're gonna call our agent Sally to write the offer. How does that make you feel, Kim?
Like I missed a great birthday party for nothing.
Right? And who's to blame?
Obviously that person.
Obviously,
Client.
Joe.
Joe.
Obviously, Joe is to blame for wasting
Yeah.
your time.
Yeah.
These buyers.
How dare he?
When we know, we hold up the mirror, we look inward and we say, what could I have done better? What could I have done differently? How could I not let this happen again? And I will tell you that even though I was trained from the very beginning, the KW way, which is this way, I still made the mistake. I still took, it's my business. I took the autonomy, the liberty to break my rules a couple of times in my days. And I got burned a couple of times. And one time I got burned with the exact example we're talking about now, where I met her at the house. She already had an agent and I was going too fast. I failed to follow the process and follow the system, and I wasted my time, and I could only be mad at myself. That being said, I took an educated risk, I guess. I looked at it. And by the way, there are plenty of agents, and if some of you on this call do it differently, it's, guess what? You're an independent contractor. It's your business. It's your prerogative to waste your time. I'm not going to hold that against you. But no, in all seriousness, some agents don't like this idea. I suspect that the reason you're here is because you like the concept and you want to implement it, or you're curious about it, you believe in it. And if you are conducting your business differently, I would say this is fun. There's no judgment. And I'm hoping to show you a path to conduct your business in a more professional manner that honors your time, right? And helps set expectations. Because at the end of the day, when expectations are set, everybody wins, right? So let's take that example where Kim showed Joe a house, right? She skipped her birthday party to show him a house. Did he just do himself a disservice by not going with his agent? You're shaking your head, yeah, right? Why do you think so, Fran? Why did he do, you recently bought a house, right? Why did he do himself a disservice?
Because he cheated on his agent.
Yeah, he cheated on his agent, and how that harms him is his agent is the one that knows what he wants, knows his buying power. If he wants to write an offer, that agent didn't see the house, right? Which is a whole nother thing that I don't know if any of you have ever had a client that says, hey, I just went to the open house. I want to write an offer on 123 Main Street. A good agent will write the offer. A great agent will say, okay, let me get in the house before I write this offer, because I want to protect you and I want to make sure that you see the crack in the foundation or you saw the leak in the ceiling, so that it doesn't come back to haunt you when the first time the agent sees it, it's the final walkthrough and there's all these issues, right? So it really did him a disservice to not have his agent present, right? So that's why setting expectations is a win-win. It's a win for you. It protects your time and it protects ultimately that person, okay? So that's why I like to start with this mindset of why. We're going to dive into this. So let's brainstorm a little bit, and I want to hear from some people online too, so feel free, we can hear you. Why would an agent choose to have a consultation with a buyer, a thorough consultation, before just getting up and showing them houses? What might the benefit be? Let's just brainstorm some stuff.
Protects everybody involved.
Yeah, protects their time, right? Protects their interests. What else? I can wait.
I just don't wanna, I'm trying to give others time.
I know. Maybe they're not in a position to speak up. I would love to hear from you, Kate, Colleen, and Kathleen. You all have amazing things to contribute. While we're waiting for them, Kim, what would you like to add?
Well, say the question again. So
Why is a buyer consult something that people should consider adding to their business?
Realtor safety.
Ooh, I like that one. Realtor safety. Yeah. I mean, we have all unfortunately heard the stories of realtors, men and women alike, that have been assaulted at a house. They met a stranger, right? It's a perfect opportunity. It's a vacant house. Perfect opportunity to rob an unsuspecting agent, right? So absolutely, you want to know who you're meeting with. And if they're willing to commit to a meeting with you before the showing, it shows that they're more committed to the goal of buying a house than a random, what's the word I'm looking for?
Stranger.
Stranger, crime person. I can't think of the word. Criminal.
There you go.
Awesome, okay.
I think it's really important to remind them how much they can afford. Is they get to some houses where you know they can't afford it. You just need to remind them that.
So what I wrote down, Colleen, thank you so much. What I wrote down to kind of take that comment to a more summary level is educate them, right? Because you said remind them of their budget, but aren't we educating them on so much more than that, right?
Yeah.
Is this location right for them based on their goals? Right?
Yeah, I was gonna say it really slows everything down to speed up the process in the future though, because you really
Yeah.
deep dive into what they want. So it saves you time, it saves them time, so that you're not going into houses that one, they're not qualified for, like they said. Two, that they don't actually love because you've deep dived into what they actually want. So when you're educating them, so they're not writing offers that you know that they're not going to get accepted.
So I'm writing slow down to deep dive. Right, basically is what you said, right? Slow down to deep dive.
Yep.
And I think that's so important. I like to say slow down to speed up. True, and I will say that to a prospect on the phone. If it's okay with you, I'd like to slow down so that we can speed up later. Does that sound good? And they're like, yeah, all right. So you want to go deep. Now I'm going to share a story with you, and I'd love to hear if anyone has ever experienced this or heard of this. But this is legitimately something that happened to ultimately a buyer that was referred to our team. So the buyer was working with an agent. Now there was no loyalty agreement signed or partnership agreement. It was an agent they had met from another brokerage that they had met through an open house or an online, like I would call them, I want to see 123 Main Street, right? And they had been working with this agent for a little bit on looking at different showings. There was no commitment loyalty, but they were working with them. They were considered their agent. And they started asking friends for a second opinion when something happened. And I'll tell you what happened. But they didn't even find out till later how bad it was. So they, with this agent, wrote an offer on a house. Now I think they've only seen a couple houses, okay, but they wrote an offer on this house in Farmington, and it was a $350,000 house. Great house. They wrote an offer, and if my memory serves, they actually got it accepted, but then there was like someone that came in during the attorney disapproval and bumped them. Okay, so it had been accepted, but then thankfully the deal fell apart. Well, they were upset. Of course, the deal fell apart. They felt like their agent wasn't looking out for them. And so that's when they started asking friends, who do you know? And they got connected to me and my team. Okay. What my team and I did is on that call with them, we're exploring why did they reach out to us, right? Are you working with an agent? Do you have a partnership agreement? No. We discovered that that agent did not take the time to slow down and understand their budget. That agent basically saw a pre-approval letter from a lender for a certain amount. But Kathleen, you were saying you want to, actually Colleen, you're the one that said you want to remind them of their budget, right? Well, when we set a consult and got deep with them on their budget, we discovered that their comfort level for a monthly payment was $1,800 a month. That does not make a $350,000 house, right? So here's the deal. They had a pre-approval letter for $350,000. Their bank said they could afford it, and they could afford it. But they only wanted to spend $1,800 a month, which in this market with these interest rates, that's like a $220,000 house maybe, okay? Great house, but not a $350,000 house. So here's the deal. Had their offer not been bumped, they would have gone through, applied for a mortgage, the bank would have given them a mortgage, right? Now, would they have accepted the mortgage once they saw that final payment? I don't know. Would have been a really bad position to be in. But that's the classic example of an agent that got excited. There's a house to show, wrote the offer, and didn't slow down to go deep and help truly understand what that client is looking for. So when they met with us and we had to kind of give them the bad news that, hey, you've been shopping in a price bracket that doesn't support your budget goal. Now you can change your budget goal and keep shopping there, or you can bring it down a notch. They were so thankful and looked at it as like it was a sign that they didn't get that house, right? Now, we are fiduciaries to our clients, you guys, right? They don't know. The bank says 350, there are many astute buyers that will know that you have to translate that what a bank says to a monthly payment. These buyers were working really fast and maybe they were very astute. They just didn't slow down. And the agent was relying on the loan officer to have the financial conversation, right? The agent was like, this is my lane, I show houses, the loan officer does all that stuff. And I say, our job is to marry the two and we have both conversations, right? We need to see it all so that we know, just like Colleen said, remind them of their budget and make sure that their goals and their budget is protected. So that is the perfect example of slowing down to deep dive and why it's so important. Does anyone else have a story like that that they've heard or maybe they did or happened to them that would be super helpful to contribute to the group?
Can I just piggyback on what you're saying?
Please, Kate.
And I'm driving, so if we have bad reception, let me know. I'll try to be quick. I just find that for me, at least, it has created an environment of more stability overall in every aspect. And when I sit down or do a Zoom consultation with my buyers, and you find the nuances, you find like I have a guy I've been working with now for 2 years. He keeps telling me where he wants to live, but then I find him a house and he'll say, well, there's too much traffic on that particular road. Well, that's the road he keeps saying he wants to live on. So having that continued conversation allows, and the initial conversation allows me to help guide him when he calls me up and says, hey, I want to look at this house on County Road 6. I'll be able to go back and say, now I just want to remind you that we've seen 2 there now, and during our consultation and our experiences, the traffic is too much. And he says, oh, that's right. Because I think a lot of times buyers have amnesia.
Mm-hmm.
They just want to buy a house. And for me, the consultation gives me context that I can glean from and help give back and say back to them that helps keep them. I'm like the rudder on a ship for them. So for whatever that's worth, I find that the consultation, I didn't always do them. I find that especially during COVID and coming out of COVID, there were a lot of people who didn't want to bother with that. And I had to really stick to my guns and say, this is part of my protocol. And sometimes I wasn't the realtor, but proof of funds, who become my clients. Because I don't fit for them. They don't want to follow my protocol. And so those are the reasons.
And I think she's in.
I like the buyer. I don't know.
Yeah, Kate, thank you so much. I don't know if you can hear me. You cut out a little bit, but we got 85–90% of that. So thank you for sharing that story. You're exactly right. What I wrote down from your story is a couple of nuggets. So I wrote down find the nuances. I wrote down context. And I wrote down relationship, right? Because when you slow down and go deep, like Kate said, you find the nuances in what they're saying. Sometimes especially if you're working with a couple, right? where they disagree. You can find where the disagreements are and figure out, okay, where we're gonna need to settle in the middle, right? Like a typical episode of House Hunters, right? You got this person that wants this person. So you find the nuances, the context. I totally agree, Kate. That's so important, is like okay, they say they want this, but why? Why do they want this? And do they really want this? Or do they want what this provides? Like, let me try to give an example of what I mean by that. Like, okay, they say they want 3 bedrooms. Okay, so you could just set up a search for 3 bedrooms, but why do they want 3 bedrooms? Well, we have a daughter and my husband likes to work from home. Oh, okay. So you mean you could do 2 bedrooms, but as long as there was a dedicated office space, you'd be okay with that, right? So like context matters. That's a simple example, but it helps you really understand the why behind that. Why do they want a big backyard? They have a dog. Why do they, right? That's super important to go deep with them and really understand. And then the last thing is Kate said, like, I've got someone I've been working with for 2 years. I have a great relationship with him. I want to ask you this. On a scale of 1 to 10, I'm going to ask the average agent, because there are agents that I know based on their charming personality can go in and wow someone, right? Like that. I'm asking you the average agent on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being amazing, we're lifelong friends, 1 being no relationship. Where do you think they fall on the relationship scale that they develop after 1 showing? Average agent. Type it in the chat box for me, folks. If you can, Kate, you're driving, please do not type it in the chat box. You can shout your number out though. Like, where do you think average agent, just a single showing? Okay. Relationship scale. You're memorable after you leave them. You built rapport, you built trust. I should probably look at the chat box. Huh? So I've got 3. Thank you, Fran. Thank you, Colleen. Anyone else?
I'd say 3.
3? Yeah. Okay, 4. I got a 4. Okay, yeah. So like the consensus is less than 5, which is not good, right? Nothing against the 8. Like, it's really hard to build a good relationship with someone in 1 showing, and relationship goes deep. I bet you can. But yeah. But like to Kate's point, true relationships are built over time. And guess what a consult gives you? Time. Dedicated time to have a conversation. And then my consults are 60 minutes, 75 minutes, 90 minutes. It depends on how long the client needs, but I'm at least booking an hour, and generally I'm booking an hour and a half so that there's a buffer if it goes over, right? So,
And I can't tell you the amount of times, Susan, I've had people say, you're the only real estate agent that was willing to come to my house and talk to me.
And you know what? It takes time, right, to do that, but don't you save yourself time in the long run? Absolutely. Yep. So let's switch gears for a second. We're gonna beat this up. We're gonna beat this like a dead horse. Isn't that a saying? Beat it like a dead horse. Something like that.
Yeah.
Something.
Just go with it.
Okay.
You just go with it.
Okay. Yeah. So we're gonna flip the switch, and I'm gonna say, like, why not? Right? Why would it? Right? So we're an agent and we don't do consults. Tell me why we don't do consults. We're gonna argue against it.
Waste of time. I'm too busy.
Too busy. Waste of time. What else?
I'm going to play devil's advocate. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yes. Who is this? This is
Fran.
Fran.
Hey, Fran.
Other Fran.
I'm going to, Fran King. I'm going to play the newbie on the block, which I am. And one might be afraid that they're not going to have all the answers that the client is looking for.
Love it. Lack knowledge, fear. That's it. So yeah, that's exactly what I'm going for, is like, what are the reasons that an agent would say, I'm not going to do that? This is perfect example. I agree with you that some agents may say, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what to say. So I don't want to put myself in a position where I have to say a whole lot, right?
Well, if I can contribute a little something personal, I was so worried this morning because I was putting in my first offer. But luckily, thank you, luckily, I had a wonderful person just review it all. And I thought I didn't have the knowledge, I didn't have that I needed somebody to hold my hand. And maybe I didn't. So maybe that whole idea of doing a consult with a buyer, I mean, a person, well, whichever, yeah, a buyer.
A lead, a buyer, yep.
Maybe I have more knowledge than I am aware of.
I love that you said that, Fran. Thank you for being vulnerable and sharing your experience. Congratulations on your first offer, by the way. Kim had shared that with me before we started the class. We were celebrating you. I don't know if your ears were ringing.
Thank you.
Yes. So what was I going to say? Sometimes I lose my train of thought. It flies away like a little birdie. Knowledge. Okay. I was going to ask a question. So humor me, Fran.
Sure.
Gen pop, most people, right? General population. On a scale of 1 to 10, what is their knowledge about the real estate process of buying and selling? Fran in the room says nothing, right? I would argue if you're saying 10 is an expert and 1 is nothing, they probably are a 2 or a 3. Like they know enough to be dangerous from what they see on social media or the news. But like, as far as the actual process, probably nothing, to Fran's point. What do you think, Fran, on Zoom, Fran King?
Yeah, I think they know very, very little.
Yeah. So even if you aren't the most seasoned expert, if you're someone that's plugging into classes and trainings and learning as much as you can, even if you don't feel like you're the seasoned expert and there's another agent in the room that knows a lot more than you, I guarantee you know more than the prospective buyer. So you have value to add. So some of it is like, again, starting with the why, like committing to yourself that you are worthy and you have the knowledge to bring the value that the client or the prospective client will get in that meeting, right? Thank you for sharing, Fran. Okay, what else? Why not? Why might an agent say, not for me? I'm gonna keep doing it my way. Meeting strangers. We'll take one more and then we'll move on. I'm not even looking for a specific answer, just leaving it open to make sure we really exhaust it.
I would say probably fear of them not signing and feeling pressure and going to another agent, so possibly losing that buyer.
Bingo. I say I wasn't looking for a specific answer, but as soon as you said it, I was like, yeah, fear, right? Like they may not even actually identify with the fact that it's fear, but it's fear. Like fear is what is the number one human emotion that drives us?
Love.
Love. No, I wish. Fear makes us do things. And so whether they are actively saying to themselves, I'm afraid they won't commit to me or not, there is an element of that, right? It's the same reason why agents don't lead generate, because they're afraid of rejection, of hearing no on the other end of the line. So I'm just going to keep showing them houses and showing up as me and my personality, and that'll keep them hooked, right? Versus having the ask, making the ask and getting them to yes to take the appointment, right? So you hit the nail on the head. You did good with that one. You hit the nail on the head, Kathleen. That is why a lot of agents don't do it. And listen, I mean this when I say it, like no judgment, maybe a little bit of judgment, If that's not how you conduct your business, like you're independent contractors, I'm just here to show you a better path, a better way, a more professional way, a more efficient way, a way that honors what you do as a fiduciary, a way that sets the client up for success. So if you can get down with this concept, if you can get it in your head that, yes, these are all the benefits, yes, this is something I want to do, then make that commitment that going forward, you are going to have a buyer consult with every single buyer, whether it's your mother, right? Your neighbor or a random person you meet at an open house. And I say that because like there is this thing, there is this psychology that like, oh, it's my sister, I'll just, we'll just skip past that part and I'll just keep kind of cash. And I would argue that it's your friends and family that you have to double down on the systems and double down on the professionalism, because they might be expecting you to show up and be more cash. But when you show up as the professional and they get to see what you do every day, trust me, they will be impressed and probably refer you more business, right? So don't take it slow or easy with the family, step up with them so they can really see what you do. Okay, we're gonna pause. Questions, comments? Fran, is your hand up just remaining from what you shared before?
I'm sorry, I don't understand your question.
Oh, I see your hand is raised, so I don't know if you had it, if you want to contribute.
No,
Okay.
I don't know how I did that.
I love it, no worries. I don't know how you did it either, but I know that there's something you can do to raise your hand. Okay, so how are we feeling? Are we feeling, do we see the benefit of doing a consultation? Okay, good. Now, before we get into securing a consult, I want to talk about what is a consult, not what do we say, what are all the things we cover, but like, what does a consult look like? Because I think this also is super important to define, because when I ask, hey, Fran, did you have a consult with that buyer? And you say yes, your definition of a consult may be very different than the definition of the consult that I'm going to teach you today, right? For instance, I have had agents tell me, bless their heart, that they did a showing, right? I met them at the showing and we did a consult at the house. We did a consult right at the house. I brought some papers, we talked, we did, okay. I think that at least having some type of a consult conversation at the house is better than not at all, right? But I would argue that having a dedicated consult where all you're doing, you're in a separate place, all you're doing is there with a mission to talk about their home search and the market goes much more deep, right? Was it Kathleen, you talked about going deep? Or was that Fran? Someone talked about going deep. I would argue that you can't go super deep in someone else's house when you only have a half hour anyways in there before the next showing shows up, right?
Right.
So what is a consult? How do we want to define a consult in this group?
Getting to know you process.
Getting to know you process. Yep. Let's talk about like the where. Do you do it in person? Do you do it in an office, in a Dunkin' Donuts, on Zoom? Where do we do consults?
Any of those places.
Yeah, I think any of those places work, right? As long as you're one-on-one with them. I would say that the most distracting is probably going to be a public place like a Dunkin' Donuts or a Starbucks. However, I do know agents that if they're not close to their office, and let's say like our office is here, we've got an office in Penn Yan, let's say the buyer lives in Seneca Falls, right? And so it's not super conducive for the buyer to drive here or drive to Penn Yan. I would argue that the way of the future, and this kind of kicked in during COVID, is Zoom consults, virtual consults. That way you can be on vacation in Hawaii and they can be in Seneca Falls and they don't need to know you're in Hawaii. You've got a hotel room, you blur your background and you're doing your thing, right? So virtual eliminates the geography challenge, right? But if you do it in person, then it's probably not conducive for that client to drive if you can meet them somewhere. So yeah, I've heard of people doing Starbucks, Dunkin' Donuts. Just know that you're gonna be battling some background noise and distractions. But the point is, it's person to person, face to face. Okay, so what it's not a phone call. That's huge. It's not a phone call. Why is it not a phone call?
Because you miss out on the nonverbals.
You miss out on the nonverbals. I think I've heard before, you might know this better than me, Kim, like 85% of communication is nonverbal communication, right? It's the tonality, it's the body language, it's the non-words, which I guess you can get tonality over the phone, but you can't get the verbal or the eyesight cues, right? Body language, all that kind of stuff. So over the phone, I'll put it this way, if we're gonna rank it, right? I would put in-person consult at the top, followed by a Zoom, because Zoom is at least you're seeing someone's face, right? But it's not in person, so they might just be a little bit lost. Followed by a phone call, followed by nothing, right? So you can do a consult on a phone, I'll give it to you, but you're losing something. So if you want the best consult, the way we're gonna teach you, it's in person or over Zoom with cameras on. So I want them to remember not just my voice, I want them to remember what I look like. And when I ask a question about their family, I want them to like, not only hear the care in my voice, but like see it in my eyes. I really care about them.
You can't give them cookies if you do it over Zoom.
That's a writer down there, as Lucas Hines says, that's a writer down there. Yeah,
Bring
okay,
homemade cookies.
see,
I can't wait to have the cookies that you bake for me in your new home.
see.
How can you forget that? You can't.
You can't. Yeah, everybody has their schlick. I love it.
Yep.
Schlick, whatever. So,
Well, and I have,
go ahead, Kate.
I was gonna say, I work with a lot of out of town people, especially when I'm doing lake
Yes.
properties. And so mine often does start out as a phone quote consultation.
Okay.
I'll call it an introduction.
Yes.
Then it will move to a Zoom. And when they're coming in town, if I have not been able to meet them in person, what I always do is we do meet in a public place because I don't know them. They're from out of town. Even the little Penn Yan office puts me in a position of a lack of safety if I don't know these people.
Sure.
So I'll do the showing and then I get the opportunity then to show them my generosity because I've made it very clear that I'm buying them coffee or if they want wine, I'll buy the glass of wine. And it puts me in a position of, it elevates them in their eyes of how I'm going to provide service. Especially if it's a lake person and we're talking a higher level of price, that'll affect where I take them. You try to do it so that it matches them, but it also starts to, especially with these type of buyers, it puts us on the same plane. And because we go out, we talk about, do you play golf? I will ask them where they've gone on vacation, which ends up allowing them to talk about, well, we went there on our anniversary. Oh, when's your anniversary? Now I have their anniversary date.
Mm-hmm.
So you start to glean information that you're going to put into Command, if you use Command or whatever CRM. And I find that mine, a lot of times in my career, have been in stages. Introductory call, maybe that's a longer call. Then they do their paperwork because they live in Florida or they live in Washington, DC. Then it's in person on Zoom. Then it's in person, right? So for me, my buyer consultations can be 4 parts. So I guess the message I'm trying to impart towards our newer folks is it may not look like one thing, one buyer consultation that is housed in one moment. It may be in parts.
Yeah, and thank you for sharing that. I think it's a good point to clarify that my consultations, like you said, are in parts as well, Kate. They're always in 2 parts at least. And I can see the need to have more. I think that, your consultation process has more parts, but I would suspect that you're getting most of the information about what they're looking for and the move and why in the first two, right? Would you say the discovery call, that first call, I call it the discovery call, and then the second, the phone or Zoom consult that you're doing is where you're getting the meat? And then the other stuff, the coffee, that's more the fluff of the relationship, but you've already gotten the meat up to that point. Would you agree?
Yeah, I don't know that I would call it fluff. I would,
Well-
because I've really, so many times, the actual in-person has been where I would call it the clarification and the confirmation.
Okay,
Yes, there is some fluff, but I would call it clarification and confirmation, because that's where you watch the wife undercut her husband, or you watch the husband not really want to move, but he's acquiescing. You start to see those nuances in person that you might not catch even on a Zoom call.
sure. Okay, got it. So, let's clarify too, that what a consult is generally not, like, I know you said the consult is, you've got it in stages, you've got the first phone call, then maybe a Zoom meeting, and then in person. I want to make sure that you know, for the purposes of this class, I am referring to the Zoom consultation or in-person consultation. We will talk about the phone call, which I call a discovery call, which is number 2, securing the consult. Because I believe that, let's say someone calls you up, whether they referred to you or it was an internet lead, whatever it is, they call you up. You are not prepared. You probably can launch into it, but you're not prepared. One, because you probably haven't blocked the time, right? They're not prepared to sit on a call with you for an hour and a half and go deep, probably, right? So that first call is that initial discovery call. Let me get a sense of who I'm talking to, why they called me. Is it the next best step to have a consultation? Maybe it's not the next best step to have a consultation. Maybe they need to get pre-approved, understand their budget before having a consultation will add value, right? So that's the call where you're determining, how do I guide this person next best in their journey? And then the consult that I talk about in this class is that next step of, we're going to meet for a strategy session. We're going to meet for a consultation. Okay. So I love what you said, Kate, about it's a journey, because it absolutely is. And it always starts with a phone call of some sort, right? I mean, even if it starts with a text or an email, they text you or they email you, you want to get them on a phone call, right? The goal is to get them to give you your phone number, give you their phone number, so you can have a conversation. And I would say that initial conversation is not the consult. That initial conversation is you're sussing out who you're talking to and what their needs are, and can you serve them? Okay. Thoughts on that? Comments, questions? Kate, I really, really appreciate your feedback. Keep it coming. It's so helpful for especially new agents when they get to hear from other people's, experiences. And definitely not just mine. Okay, so we talked about why. I think we've got our heads wrapped around why having a consult is important, and some of the limiting beliefs that we can put on ourselves as to why we might not do them. We've established that you certainly don't have to do one. We just established that I think we're here today because we see the value in it, and we want to do that for our business and for our clients. And we've identified, when we, at least in this class, are talking about a consult, what are we talking about, right? So we can get real clear. Okay. Let's pivot to the next step, which is we've got a lead. A lead could be a referral, a warm lead, a cold lead, whatever it is. And it's time to understand who they are, what they need, how we can serve them, and ultimately set a consult. Okay. So in this section of the class, I like to just talk about what happens here, how this might sound, what kind of information you want to gather inside of this conversation that will then lead you to a really powerful consult. Because the more you can, like, true or false, the more you can glean from that initial discovery call, right? Kate talked about that first call, the more powerful your consult can be. True, right? True or true? I should have said true or true. True. No false is an option. All right, I'm gonna take a quick picture of this for a second. We're gonna do some erasing. So we're gonna focus on securing a consult. And what that conversation might sound like. So. What I would like to do is get feedback from the class on what are the things. What are the things, we're just gonna shout them out in any order, what are the things that you want to learn on a discovery? Okay, shout them out, any order. What do you want to learn about? Remember, this is not an hour-long conversation, so we can't go super deep. But what are we trying to discover on our discovery call?
What type of people they are?
When they want to be in the house by.
Okay, so one sec, so timing, right? I'll write that down as timing. Fran in the room said what type of people they are. Give me more. What does that mean? What type of people they are?
The yard that they want, literally everything that they want in.
Okay, what they want. I'm gonna write that down and we're gonna talk about why that's something we save for the consult. Okay, we might high level because a lot of people want to start talking, they just want to start talking about that. But that's gonna take up a lot of time and we reserve that for the consult generally. Okay, so what they want now, I'm just gonna, we're gonna get high level. Because we might not even ask that, but they're gonna naturally start to talk about it, right? Awesome, thank you for that contribution. What else? Lori, thank you for joining us, welcome. We're talking about on that initial discovery call with a lead or maybe someone that came through our open house and we're following up with them. What are some things we might wanna learn to understand if they're a viable buyer that needs our help and are ready to meet with us for a consultation?
Do they have another house to sell?
Do they have a house to sell? Love it. We're trying to understand their position. Are they step up buyers? Are they first time buyers, right? Who are we talking to? Thank you, Kathleen.
Why are they moving?
Why? Motivation. That is probably the most important thing you need to figure out. What is their motivation?
How many people are going to be living in the house?
I'm writing that down. I would say that if that's not something you get to, that's okay, because you will cover it in the consult, okay? Definitely something you want to know overall, though. Who said that? I think that was Fran. Thank you, Fran. What else might we want to know on a discovery call before we commit time to meet with them to go deeper?
What their budget is.
Thank you. Budget. And are they pre-approved, right? Do they even have the ability to buy? I'm gonna call that able, right? Because our goal, if you think about what our commitment is to sellers of listings, right? We will bring what? Ready, willing, and what buyers?
Able.
Ready, willing, and able. So you might have a lead that's ready. Timing, I want to be in a house next week. Willing, they got the motivation, but are they able to buy, right? Because can you imagine not figuring that out up front and then you go invest 60, 90 minutes with them and realize they are not able to buy. It's going to take them 2-3 years, whatever. And that's okay. You don't need to look at that as like a waste of your time, but could that time have been spent better for you and for them, right? So yes, budget and are they able? What else? Do one more and then I'll give you my secret acronym.
Are they working with anyone?
Thank you. Yeah, so they're working with an agent. Right? What if this lead that called you has an agent they're committed to? And they've signed paperwork with that agent. That helps you cut that call real short and save your time versus talking to them for a half hour, right? Okay. So all of these are things that we want to cover. However, I would say that the key ones are motivation, working with an agent, budget, timing, right? Those Those are the key things, house to sell as well, that's a good one. So I'm gonna give you an acronym, write it down if you're able. This is a super easy acronym that I built my business off of when converting buyer leads. And it's called you know what, I'm going to have to erase this. And I need a bigger whiteboard. Okay. And I love acronyms because they help my brain remember things very easily. It's called LPMAMA. LPMAMA. Okay, and I'm going to tell you what each of these what these letters stand for. Okay, and these are the key points you want to understand before you move them to the next phase. Doesn't have to be in this order. This is just a fun acronym to say. LPMAMA. Right? It's like a rap song, LPMAMA. So L, what does that stand for? Anyone know what L stands for?
Location.
Location. Thank you. Real estate is all about location, 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 right? First, I mean, you want to know where they're looking. Now, if they called you on 123 Main Street in Canandaigua, for example, you can ask a follow-up question like, I see this property is located in Canandaigua. Is that your preferred area? Are you open to others? Right? There's ways to ask questions to understand what their scope is. If they just call you because they were referred to you or you get in touch with them, you want to know in general where are they looking because you want to know who served that area, right? Or is this going to be a referral situation? And so location, what does P stand for?
Price.
Price, which someone said earlier, I think Fran, budget, right? Price. We'll talk about some questions along here. How about first M?
Motivation.
Motivation. Awesome, awesome. Second, our first A.
Ability.
I love that. No, however, no, with this acronym, no, although ability comes in next. A stands for agent. Are you working with an agent? Okay. Ability comes into play with M, which stands for mortgage. Like, do they need a mortgage? Or, will they be buying cash? And what's the last A? I'll give you a hint. It's what we're trying to get. Next.
Agreement.
Appointment. Close, appointment. So, nowhere in here do we see how many number of bedrooms, how many number of bathrooms, right? All of that. Yes, that stuff is super important that we know to help them, but we don't need to invest our time in that conversation until we determine that they're a viable lead for us, right? So these are the key things. So we can start talking a little bit next about a conversation that surrounds LPMAMA. Okay, so this is how a call might sound with someone. Actually, Kathleen, you want to role play something with me? I'll be the agent, you can be the buyer.
Sure.
Okay, so we're going to pretend that Kathleen reached out to me on, let's say, a specific property. We're just going to say 123 Main Street, okay? And I'm going to role play for you how a call might sound, where I'm going to an appointment. And Kathleen, you be whoever you want. You throw curveballs at me. You'll see how I kind of navigate this in my head, okay?
Okay.
So, ring, ring.
Hello,
Hi, is this Kathleen?
this is her.
Hi, Kathleen. My name is Susan Glenz with Keller Williams Realty, and I'm calling because I see that you inquired on our listing at 123 Main Street in Canandaigua. Did I catch you at a good time?
Oh, hi, Susan. Yeah, I have a few minutes to talk.
Perfect. Okay, great. Well, so I wanted to make sure to reach out to you because I know you had an inquiry. So this has been a super hot property for us. I'm so glad you reached out. Tell me, is Canandaigua a place that you are interested in buying in? Is this your top place, or are there other places you're interested in as well?
Oh, yeah, I love Canandaigua, everything about it. I would be interested in maybe the surrounding areas, maybe like 10 to 15 minutes surrounding Canandaigua, but ultimately my heart belongs to Canandaigua, so I'd prefer to be there.
Okay, all right, great. And let me ask you this, like what makes you start looking at houses? Is this something you've been doing for a while? Or did you step your toes into the real estate market?
No, I just stepped my toes into them. I haven't even really been looking. I just saw this house and it caught my attention. It's kind of been on my radar a little bit for looking for houses, but I'm renting right now. Honestly, I have no idea where to even start.
Oh, well, I'm glad that we connected because I can definitely help you with that. So you're renting right now. Would this be your first home or have you owned homes in the past, Kathleen?
Nope, this would be my first home.
Okay, well, that's got to be exciting. Sometimes a little scary too. How are you feeling about that?
Yeah, I mean, definitely mostly excited, but it's a little bit nerve-wracking because I don't know anything about the process. I'm just unsure about a lot of things. So that brings a little bit of anxiety.
Yeah, we get that a lot for sure. So, okay, so you're renting currently. Let me ask you this. If I could wave my magic wand, or if you could wave your magic wand, when would be an ideal time for you to be in a new home?
Well, my lease is up in about 6 months, so that would probably be ideal if we could line that up.
So ideally, you would love to not renew that lease. Is that what I'm hearing?
Correct.
Yeah, okay, so 6 months, that puts us like, what, end of December?
Yep.
End of November? Yeah, okay,
Home for Christmas.
okay, awesome. So now, just curious, you're in an apartment, you have your rental. What's one of the main reasons that you're intrigued about this property you called me on?
Well, my parents have been talking to me a lot, and they basically have convinced me that I should pay my own mortgage versus paying somebody else's mortgage. And that kind of just makes sense to me. So
Yeah, have you been renting for a long time?
no, not terribly long. This is my first apartment. So, and it's only a year lease. So just 6 months.
Awesome, awesome. Well, okay, well, it sounds like you see it as a great investment.
Absolutely.
Okay, now let me ask you this. Let's say you love this house, or we can find you another house that you love even more. Would you be buying the home with cash, or would you take advantage of lender financing?
Yeah, I think I would have to speak to a lender.
Okay. Do you have a lender that you have a great relationship with, or would you like some guidance with that, Kathleen?
I don't have anybody. So if you have recommendations, I'm definitely open to hearing them.
Yeah, I definitely do. We have some great lending relationships. We work with our clients, love them. And here's the thing, I'm certainly not a lender. However, there's some questions I could ask you if you don't mind to just help ascertain your financeability when you actually speak to a lender. Could we dive into some of those right now?
Yeah, sure.
Oh, okay, great. So a lender is going to look at typically 3 things with you, okay? They're going to want to look at your income, your job and your income to make sure it's stable. They're going to want to look at your credit score to make sure that you're someone that has a good credit score, you pay your bills on time. And then they're going to want to look at your debt to income ratio, okay? Now I can't pull your credit and I certainly can't go that deep, but I can ask you some high level questions to give you a sense of whether or not what that lender might tell you, okay? So Kathleen, what do you do for work?
I'm a nurse.
Nurse, awesome. Are you right here local in Canandaigua, or where do you work out of?
Yeah, yep, I work right at Thompson.
Oh, awesome. Well, thank you for doing that. Nurses, you guys got a lot of stress right now, I know, with everything going on. And I have a couple nurses in my family. I know you work really hard. How long have you been a nurse?
I have been a nurse for about a year. I just got done with college about a year ago. So
well, congratulations. Do you love it?
I do.
Awesome. Awesome. So it sounds like you've got a great job there at Thompson. And have you pulled your credit recently?
I have not.
Okay. Do you have an idea if you pulled it at all in the past to know if you've got good credit or if you're working on any credit repair?
I don't know too much. I am just starting out. I'm very young, so I know I haven't really built it a ton.
Okay.
But I know I haven't done anything to damage it, but I don't think I have very strong credit just because I don't have, a lot of experience. So
Okay. So that's kind of an unknown, something that a loan officer could certainly help you understand. So I'm gonna make that note and make sure we help you with that. And the third question is really just around your debt to income ratio that they're gonna look at. So do you have a lot of credit card debt or student loan debt, or are you pretty debt free?
I don't have a whole ton on my credit cards, but my student loans are pretty high.
And, you know, I don't know if you've heard this or not, Kathleen, lenders look at student loans differently, the way they factor them in. So it sounds like from what you're saying, you've got a great steady job. You're not sure about your credit. It might be great. You just don't know. So we just need to get that pulled, and then someone can assess your, debt to income ratio. So I'm going to connect you with a couple of options to consider for lending that can help go further there. The other thing they're going to look at, the last thing they're going to look at, and this is not relation to your financeability, this is more about your ability to buy now, is your availability of funds for a down payment. So if we were to find a home in the next month, Kathleen, how much liquid funds do you have available to put towards the closing costs and down payment?
I have right now, I have about 6,000 saved.
Okay, awesome. Now, we're gonna pause. Actually, no, we're gonna keep going and we'll come back to that. Okay, 6,000, awesome. And based on your current rent, what's like a monthly mortgage payment you might be comfortable with? What do you pay for rent currently?
Right now for rent, I pay 1,500.
Okay. And is there any, have you thought about a mortgage? Could you afford more? Would you like to do less? What would you be looking at for a monthly budget, do you think?
Yeah, I could afford more. I think probably to be in my comfort level, I would say no more than 1,700 a month.
Cool. Okay. This is super helpful. So, what I'm hearing is that you've got a healthy budget, you've got a great job, you just need to fill a few gaps in as far as your credit and debt to income ratio. I think the biggest, assuming those look good, which they probably will, I think the biggest hurdle that we're gonna need to help you get through, and this is very normal, by the way, Kathleen, for first-time buyers, is making sure you have enough cash available at closing, okay? Because based on what you're telling me about monthly payment, 1,500 to 1,700 in today's market, that's probably going to put you in like the 150 range for buying. And if I just do some quick math, and I won't bore you with it, we can get into this in much more detail later. But if I just do some quick math, you're probably looking at needing, let's say 12,000 to 15,000 for a down payment, assuming not down payment, all in, assuming no, closing cost assistance and things like that, which there's certainly programs we could educate you on. Okay. So I would say that probably the number one thing for you to do right now is we're going to help connect you to someone to get pre-approved, and then focus on starting to save some more money to build that number up. How does that sound?
That sounds really good. I actually see the commercials all the time for the Rocket Mortgage where they talk about the 10,000. I don't know what they say exactly, but something about 10,000. Would you suggest maybe, talking to them that might help with that gap?
Yeah, so I love that you're looking and watching things in the market. You could certainly have a conversation with them. Can I offer you my professional opinion based on the local real estate market?
Yes, please do.
Okay, so my team and we service over 300 clients a year. Keller Williams, we're the largest brokerage in the area. We service thousands of clients, and I will say that we've got a lot of experience behind us, so I don't give this advice lightly, that generally we find that Rocket Mortgage and some of these online Quicken Loans and things like that, they're not really looked at in the highest value or best light in our local market. That in a competitive market like this, it's going to be, you'll be much better suited to have a local lender that has a really strong local reputation for your offer to prevail. Not to say you can't explore it. We've had clients have bad experiences with them as well. So I would love to connect you with some options of local lenders to consider that do have similar programs to explore. How does that sound?
Oh, okay. Yeah. I mean, if they have similar programs, I would love to, work with somebody who you've actually worked with and have an experience with.
Yeah, and there's some lenders as well that I'll put in the mix that have grant programs and things of that nature that could also be something to explore if you meet income qualifications, okay?
Okay, thank you.
So that'll be my next step. I think it would be a great service to you if I connect you with some lenders, and I'll send you an email with some lenders and some reasons why each of those lenders would be worth exploring, okay?
Okay, that'd be great.
Awesome. All right, so I'm glad we connected about this house. It sounds like 123 Main Street checks a lot of boxes for you. Given the fact that you're not yet pre-approved, I'm gonna say it's best use of your time to explore that before we go, seeing houses and things of that nature. So why don't we hit the pause button on that piece and we'll move forward with helping you with your mortgage.
Yeah, that makes sense. I'm just a little worried. I see the offers are due, I think tomorrow it said. And since I do love this house, is there any way we could just get in and see it?
Yeah, such a great question. So let me just give you a quick background of what's happening in the market, because my goal is to set my clients up for success. I don't want to set you up for failure. So I can tell you, while I'm not the listing agent on this house, my team and I sold the house down the street. And I can tell you this house will probably have 20 offers. The house down the street had about 15 offers and it sold for 70,000 over asking. So even though it's listed at 120, the house down the street, which is not as nice as this one, quite frankly, sold for 195,000, which unfortunately that's going to put you over your budget. And what I don't want to do for you is create a stressful environment in which you go in, you see this house, you love it, you need to rush, and then it doesn't work out and it's just non-starter, right? So my goal is to educate my clients and help set them up for success. So my best recommendation is to slow down so we can speed up. And unfortunately, I think we missed the market on this house. I hate for you to see it, fall in love with it, and we just can't make it happen.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
The other thing too, which I probably wouldn't tell her this because she just said that makes sense, right? So I'm not going to keep selling. So I'm going to pause for a second. The other thing too, I would say is, one of the things we have a commitment as realtors to do is to bring ready, willing, and able buyers into houses, right? Sellers want to know that the people there that we're bringing through are ready, willing, and able. And I know that you are ready. You are ready to buy a house in the next 6 months, tomorrow if you can. And I know that you're certainly willing. The one thing we haven't solved for today is whether or not you're able, and that's really why we need to take the next step. And I'm doubtful we'll be able to get that next step done in the next, 18 hours to a point where you're very informed to make an offer. Does that make sense, Kathleen?
Yeah, it definitely makes a lot of sense. Thank you for explaining that to me. I like I said, I'm unsure of this whole process, so I don't want to waste anyone's time.
Well, and so that's one of the biggest values that we can offer is helping you understand the process. So there are certainly next steps that we can take to set you up for success, but I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you this. Are you currently working with a real estate agent, or is this really your first, am I the first person you've had a conversation with?
Yep, you're the first person. Like I said, wasn't even really looking. My parents and I just had a conversation very recently. So I've just been browsing Zillow and happened to just fall in love with the charm of this house.
Awesome. Well, I'm so glad that we connected because we have a really proven path that we take our clients down. Our clients love the next step, which would be a strategy session, or we call it a home buying consultation. And so after we connect you with lenders and you get pre-approved and you can come back to us and say, I'm good to go, I can get a mortgage, we're going to set an appointment to go through 3 things. Okay, so the 3 things we're going to go through is number 1, what are your needs and wants in a home, right? What are the things you need to have, your deal breakers, and what are your nice to haves, the things that you would love to have if you could. We're going to go through that, your needs and your wants, so that we have a very clear understanding of the house that you're looking for, okay? And you'll learn a lot. The second thing we're going to go through is the state of the current real estate market. We're going to share with you what the competitive nature is of the market and what are some of the tools that we have at our disposal to set you up for success to win in this market. How does that sound?
That sounds perfect.
And then the last thing we're going to cover, Kathleen, is the start to finish process of buying a home, because I know you've expressed to me a couple of times that you are, nervous, anxious, excited, anxious about this. And so we're gonna go through with you the entire process, so you see what happens next. We don't expect you to remember it all. We're here to help guide your hand, hold your hand and guide you the entire way. But we find that our clients find it very valuable to be shown the process ahead of time so they know what to expect. Make sense?
Yeah, that would make me, I think that would ease my anxiety a little bit.
Yeah, we definitely find that our buyers, our clients leave that meeting feeling empowered for their search. They feel super knowledgeable and educated. And most importantly, they feel excited and confident in choosing us as their partner to help them find their home. So that being said, if I send you some lender options, how quickly do you think you can reach out to them and have a conversation with them by?
I'm actually free all day today, so if they were able to call today, that would work out great.
Awesome, okay. So I'm gonna, as soon as we hang up, I'm gonna send you an email. This is where I would ask for email, ask all of her contact information, right? I need to get all of that. And then, so if I do that, let's set a time to meet this week. What are days and times that generally work best for you?
Usually Thursday in the afternoon, anytime Saturday and Sunday mornings.
Okay, so there's two options when you're getting the appointment. I'm going to pause on a role play here. You can say, does Thursday at 2 or Saturday at 1 work better for you? You can give them some options based on your schedule. I've certainly done that. I also like to understand in general what days and times work best for them. And I forgot to set this expectation with her, but I would say is once you get pre-approved and then it's time for that consultation, I would say plan on about an hour, right? So is there general days and times that you have about an hour you can meet with me over Zoom? I'm setting that expectation so she can look at her calendar and reserve that space for me. Okay, so this is where we would set the appointment. Awesome. Now I'm setting that appointment, but she has homework to do before that appointment, right? So it's like a two-step, right? She's got homework, I've got homework. So then we'll end the call. I can't wait to meet with you. I will send you an email and then I'll send you a text so you have my information and we can stay informed on your conversations with the lender. Okay, so we're gonna pause. And I'm just gonna go through LP Mama. I was checking them off as I was going. We understood location, right? From the very beginning, she said, yep, Canandaigua and surrounding areas. We did end up understanding her price when we got into her, she didn't give us the price. She gave us a monthly budget she was comfortable with, so I was able to reverse engineer a price. We understand her motivation is really financially, it's a good decision. I don't want to pay my landlord's mortgage, right? She's not working with an agent. We were the first ones. She does need a mortgage, and we understand her job. We understand that she's probably a good candidate, but there's some gaps we need to fill in, so we really need to connect her to a lender. We understand she's excited about maybe Rocket Mortgage and some closing costs because she doesn't have a ton of cash, right? So we get a sense of who we're talking to, and we got the appointment, right? We didn't necessarily have to go into all the things about the house because we're not there yet. Make sense? All right, I have been talking a lot. Lori, I see that your hand is up. I don't know if that's by design or on accident. Do you have a question? Okay, if you do, unmute yourself. I'm gonna open up to the floor. Kathleen, Fran in the room, Lori. Are there questions, comments on that conversation? Did we learn something?
I have a comment.
Yes, Fran, please share.
I've been working with Op City.
Okay.
And my, I don't want to say quality, that's a very judgmental word. My clients are coming to me with a particular property and definitely a low budget.
Okay.
Is going through this process with them going to be productive? Is it something I do after I've shown them a few properties and then get a little bit of a sense of who they are? Or do I start with an appointment or start with a conversation on the phone that goes through all of this?
Yeah, so I don't think there's a right or wrong answer. I want to make sure I'm very clear that I'm not saying this is the right way. I am saying this is the most productive way and most efficient use of your time, and this is the way that honors the client as well.
Okay.
So you can choose to go a different way. I would ask questions like, how much do you value your time? You know, what if you're showing them these houses and you have no idea that they have $1 to their name and they're getting all excited thinking they can make an offer, but they really can't, and you haven't gotten to the heart of it fast enough, right? So you've wasted their time too. That would be my concern, that following this process and the consultation, assuming, now, by the way, I would not have gone for that appointment with Kathleen if she had some different answers, right? The only reason I went for the appointment is because I said in my head, okay, she's got a good job. I bet you her credit's okay. We'll find that out. She's willing to meet with a lender right away. She's got some cash, or maybe some programs. Even if we discover that, yep, she can buy, but not right away, and she's 12 months out to save, that's okay. I'll meet with her. And I'll probably pivot my consult a little bit to a little bit more education, a little bit less about like a house right now type of conversation. And I will consider that a good use of my time, because I'm setting that up for a nurture to turn into a buyer in 12 months. Okay. But if I discover in this call that like they need major credit repair, that's a whole set of resources we need to surround them with. It is not worth my time or their time to have a consult, nor is it worth my time or their time to show them houses. So the best thing you can do for them is discover that right away, connect them with a lender that has credit repair and all of those kinds of resources. Make sense?
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome. What else? Was this call what you thought it would be? Surprising? Good or bad?
I just feel like overall, this call gives you exactly what you said, Susan, like enough information to figure out where they belong. Like, are they a nurture? Do we need to send them to a credit specialist? So you can make sure your time is spent matching what their needs are.
There you go. Yeah. Matching their motivation. I always say that my goal is to match your motivation, right? If you want to buy a house tomorrow, we're going to figure something out. If you want to buy a house in 2 years, we're going to put you on a different path, right? It's not my timeline, it's their timeline. And yet sometimes their timeline is unrealistic, right? Like seeing that house tomorrow wasn't the best use of Kathleen's time. We're not in this market, we're not going to be able to make it. And I think sometimes agents feel like if they share the real and say, listen, it's not going to happen tomorrow, here's why, that they're going to be letting the client down and they're going to be losing a lead. When I have found 9 times out of 10 that they actually respect you for giving them the facts and the real, and that actually brings them closer to you versus pushing them away.
Yeah, I think if you give them actual facts, it removes the emotion from it a little bit, because you're not just shooting them down and saying, nope, we can't see that. Like, you're giving them the reasons why and the facts why. And, you know, that obviously they're emotionally, they want to buy that house. They like it for whatever reason. But if you give them the facts and the education and the tools to work towards what they need to do in order to find that house for them, you know, it's a little bit of an easier like letdown.
Yeah. And now here's the thing, let me throw a loophole in here, or a wrench in here. Let's say that call with Kathleen had gone a little bit differently. Let's say location, price is the same, it matches up, like, and by the way, price meaning like, okay, let's say it's $100,000 house and she can go up to 1,700, so I know she could probably afford, you know, 170, 180, and I know this house is gonna sell for way more in this market, so like that's aligning, right? Everything aligns. The only thing that's different is that she's got $30,000 right? She knows her credit score is a 720. She just hasn't been pre-approved. I know enough information then to say, okay, there's a real good chance she's getting approved and she's got cash. Maybe we can make something happen. Let's get you in this house today. I might make the business decision, the educated business decision, because she's not working with an agent, that man, if we could make this happen, it would be a Hail Mary, but you know what? Well, I think we can do it. That I would show the house and then go for the consult. Now, I would do that in this call. So it might sound something like this. You know what, Kathleen, based on everything you're telling me, I think you're in a really great position to potentially purchase this house if you like it. Now, I'm just going to warn you, it's not going to sell for a list price. It's probably going to sell for a lot more, meaning it's going to push you to your budget, the top end of your budget. But if you're willing to do that, I'm willing to do whatever it takes to get you in this house and try to get that offer for you or get that accepted for you. That being said, if it doesn't work out, because it is so competitive right now, if it doesn't work out, the best thing that my clients have found to do next is to have a thorough game plan session consultation where we can really dive deep on what you're looking for, the process and the state of the market, so that we set you up for success for that next house. Does that make sense? So if you're available tonight, I can show you this house, and then let's pencil in an appointment for Wednesday. If you write an offer and it doesn't prevail, we can hit the ground running on your next. I'm getting a formal search set up. How does that sound? Right? So you see how I pivoted inside of that conversation? I'm still getting off that call going for the appointment. I just made the decision that based on everything I'm hearing, as long as she gets pre-approved, and I can show her that house tonight, right? Then I will skirt the process because I'm taking an informed risk. Make sense? Okay. Thank you for being my role play partner, Kathleen. I really appreciate it. So we're going to pause here because we are at the end of our time, but it's great timing because the next class in 2 weeks, we're going to get into, okay, now Kathleen has her pre-approval and now we're going to actually do the consultation. What does that sound like? What do we cover? What are the things that you want to make sure they walk away with? Okay. Before we leave, can you share one aha from today, something that you learned today that was super helpful for you?
The discovery call,
The discovery call? What about it specifically?
literally everything.
Okay, the framework, right? Like what,
Right,
yeah,
like what to ask, you know, and what. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, it's very purposeful, right? Yeah. Awesome. Thank you, Fran. What else? Anyone online have an aha to share?
You really have to be quite versatile to make that pivot. You can't go in with a frame of mind. You have to be not versatile, open-minded, and be able to talk about whatever that person really needs.
Yeah. You hit it on the head. You are showing up to support them. You are meeting them where they are, right? So for you to know all the options, all the forks in the road where you can take them. If you look at the discovery call as a fork in the road, and you're either going to take them right or take them left based on where they are at, you need to know where all the forks go, right?
Which is another reason for a new agent to be afraid.
I hear you. I hear you. It is certainly scary. And the best thing that I can say helps with combating fear is education, right? So I love that you are all here learning and educating yourselves, because the folks that are struggling with stuff like this and aren't in this class aren't growing.
Because I know nothing about credit repair lenders.
Yeah, I don't know much either. Here's the thing. We're going to leave us with this. Real estate agents have to get used to not knowing everything. And there are some agents that struggle to get started because they want to know everything before they do it, prepare. And that's great, but I still don't know everything. I still couldn't connect someone to a really strong credit repair person if I had to, but you know what I would do? I would call up my go-to lenders and say, who do you know? Right? So I think being resourceful is super important as a new agent, understanding the basic premise of things and being willing to say, you know what? I'm gonna find you someone. I don't know in your head, like I don't know someone off the top of my head, but I know I have enough resources around me. You have enough KW agents that you can call for help to point you in a direction. There is no answer you cannot find in our ecosphere. We've got your back. So on that note, thank you for joining me. I hope you can join us for part 2, which is Wednesday, June 21st, 1 o'clock, same place. Thanks, everybody. Take care.
Thank you.
You're welcome.